and a lullaby. Somewhere.
Jane Kean. The Kean sisters. Come on. Grew up where, darling?
Pardon?
The Kean sisters.
Well, no, we were never known as the Kean sisters, Skippy. It was Betty and Jane Kean.
Oh, it was the Betty and Jane Kean.
Right, because we never wanted to lose our individuality because we did things separately, like Steve Lawrence and Edie Gourmet. Sometimes they worked together and sometimes they worked separately. So we would do shows, maybe individually, or we would do something together. The last thing we did together as a team was Ankles Away on Broadway, where Betty met her husband, Lou Parker.
Right. When was that? How long ago was that, would you say? That's a long time ago.
It's a long...
Now, where did you girls...
It wasn't Tuesday, Skip.
Charlie, where did you girls grow up? Where?
We grew up in New York.
In New York?
We're from Hartford, Connecticut, but Mother saw to it that we got to New York when I was 8 and Betty was 16.
Show business. At what age? Showbiz. Come on.
Well, Betty had her own radio show in Hartford at the age of 15.
Did she really?
Yes, she did. She was a brilliant dancer, but she sang a little. So she had a show called Betty and Bert. And
what kind of a show was it? Variety, comedy, or
talking and singing? But she was primarily a dancer, like Eleanor Powell. They studied at with the same teacher in Springfield, Massachusetts. So when she came to New York, she immediately got work. She went into a George White Scandals because she was so brilliant. And I was still going to school, of course.
And when did you join her?
I didn't join her, actually. I had done a couple of Broadway shows, and it was at a period in show business when people were teaming up, like Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis.
Right.
And someone at GAC, an agent there, which is now ICM, suggested that we get some material together to do an Ed Sullivan show, which is how it started. And from the one guest shot on that, we got so many offers for nightclubs, which were in their heyday then, like the Chez Paris in Chicago and the Copacabana in New York and all the Las Vegas clubs. It's not like that anymore. But we got quite a few offers from that one shot. So then we remained a team for 8 years.
8 years.
Culminating in that Ankles Away on Broadway.
Tell me about the Broadway show that you were in before. What was that?
Well, my first Broadway show was called Early to Bed. Fats Waller wrote the score.
Musical? Singing and dancing?
Musical. Singing and dancing.
Did you study when you were a little girl and around Connecticut and all that?
No, I didn't. Betty was the one that had all the training. I was a mimic. I learned by listening to Judy Garland's records and Ethel Merman, and and that's why I do so many imitations of my own nightclub act today, my one-woman show, because I have an ear for mimicry.
Right.
And that's how I learned, believe it or not. I took some lessons, like at Actors Studio for a few months, and with Sandy Meisner to develop my dramatic talent.
That's a good teacher.
The best.
That is methody.
The best.
It is.
Well, but he didn't choke you with the method. Sandy
What do you mean by didn't choke you? Like?
Well, he didn't say pretend you're an orange.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just, he believed that the key to acting was the ability to live truthfully in imaginary circumstance. And that's how he trained you. And you would develop most of your scenes through improvisation.
You did a lot of dramatic work at the beginning, though, didn't you? Or was it mostly comedy, would you say?
Well, in the beginning, I was typecast as a comedian because my first role in Early to Bed was as a comedian. But
was it difficult to be typecast at the beginning of your career like that?
Well, it's frustrating. It's frustrating because you want to do so many other things. Today, I'm in the wonderful position of being able to do roles like Driving Miss Daisy, which I did in Reno.
That's a great show. Did you do that just recently?
Yes.
That was great.
And on Golden Pond, I did with Conrad Bain. And now I can, as I'm older, I can develop into that. As you can see, my recent show is Dearly Departed, and I play a character lady. Someone said to me last night from the Footlighters Club, she said, you know, in the second act, you reminded me very much of Edna May Oliver. And I laughed. I said, great, because I can go on forever.
You're in this show right now in West Hollywood called The Dearly Departed. It's a funny show. I went opening night.
Yeah, isn't it hysterical?
Who wrote that?
A young man by the name of David Bertell.
Right.
And he plays my son in the play. He's also a very good actor.
Right.
And this is his first play.
It's real funny.
I
It's little skits, isn't it? It's not just a
Well,
play.
it has a
it's skits.
storyline. It's almost like sketches because there are two scenes. There are a lot of double scenes in it. But it does have a storyline about a family.
Right.
Who's
Going to
not
the-
too pleasant relative passed away and how they deal with it.
But it's funny.
In a
The
comic
scenes
way.
are
Oh,
funny.
those actors are brilliant. There are several, 3 actors from New York. And I wasn't familiar with their work, and I'm constantly impressed
The
with their
show
ability.
is packing them in. I mean, let's face it. I hear this little theater called the Court Theater on La
Theater.
Cienega has a little garden.
Yes, charming.
It's charming.
Yes, isn't it?
It's lovely.
Charming
You come out
theater.
between the curtains. You come out and have a little drink, and it's in the garden. You can. Oh, it's lovely.
Yes.
It's a lovely little theater of the round. It's actually a theater of the round, isn't it? Like kind of.
Well,
Or
no. Do you know
no?
that was formerly the Mitchell License Studio?
Was it really?
Yes, I remember going there years ago. He had a ballroom in it, and he staged so many of the wonderful shows,
Right.
this movies that he did at Paramount, the Numbers and so forth. And the other side was the Turnabout Theater that Elsa Lancaster
right.
had. So it's loaded with history.
It really does. Yeah. It's a
Yes.
darling theater.
Yeah, it's charming.
So how long is it going to be there? You're doing
April 11th, it'll be at the Court.
the Court Theater until, and then I understand it's going to be moves
Well,
somewhere
they're
else.
talking about it, yes.
Jane, your career. I mean, let's get back to your career.
So
now.
varied, isn't it?
It's your career. How did you get the Jackie Gleason show? I mean, the Honeymooners. Come on. How did that all
Well, I had worked with Jackie in summer stock.
Did you really?
Yeah, we did the show off together in Rhode Island, and I also did along Fifth Avenue with him on Broadway before he went into television. So he always
I didn't know
had
Jackie Gleason did summer stock. Did
well,
he?
he
really?
did that.
He certainly
sure,
did.
he did.
Did he do burlesque at all?
No.
He never did burlesque.
No.
It was like a rumor saying
Vaudeville.
Vaudeville.
He did the old on 52nd Street. He was at that famous club, Jackie.
Jackie Heller?
No, but
okay.
there was I forget, but he did things like that. And he was a great sketch comic. And at the old Slapsy Maxie's in
Slapsy,
Hollywood,
right.
where they had the little stage above the lower stage, they did sketches up there. He was there.
He was there too. I
Oh,
didn't know
yes.
that.
And so was my sister.
Betty. You miss her?
Betty. Oh, very much.
She just passed. She just
few
passed
years
a
ago,
few years
yes.
ago.
Yes.
Was she very ill at the beginning, at the end, towards the end?
No, she was very ill for the last 6 weeks of her life. But she never knew that she was going.
She wasn't.
So, no.
Very
Which
close
was
to
good.
you? Very, very close?
Very close, yes.
Very. Tell me about the Jackie Gleason show. How did you get that?
Well, as I said before, we had worked together before,
Right.
but years before.
Right.
Let's say 8 or 9 years.
Right.
And he hadn't seen me in a long time, because in the meantime, Betty and I were very hot as a team.
Very.
And then he became #1 on television. And when they decided to do a revival of the Honeymooners,
Right.
they were looking, I had run into an agent in New York, wasn't even my representative, but I was at as oddly enough, The Odd Couple
Right.
with Art Carney. I saw him there. And the next day, he had a call from the casting director from Florida, and he said, we're looking for someone to play the role of Trixie in the new version, which is a musical version,
Right.
to play Art Carney's wife.
Right.
And so he said, oh, I ran into someone last night at the theater that might be very good. He said, Jane Kean.
Right.
So he said, oh, that's interesting. He said, I'll talk to Jackie. I'll mention it. And the minute he mentioned my name, Jackie said, that's it, pal. Get her.
I like the word pal. He always uses that word.
always said pal. I think a lot of the times was because he couldn't remember people's names.
Did he really?
I think so.
It's like me.
Right.
I should use the word pal then.
Yes, sure.
Jane, I got that clip from the Jackie Gleason show, one of the Honeymooners. I like to show it right now.
Oh, really?
This is a scene between you and Audrey, I think.
Audrey
This is
Meadows.
Yeah, what a darling lady. Let's show this clip right now.
Oh,
okay?
all right. That should be
Thank
fun.
you. Good.
From the beautiful Superstar Theater in the Resorts International Hotel on the boardwalk in Atlantic City, Jackie Gleason presents... The Honeymooners, starring Jackie Gleason. Gleason and Art Carney. Audrey Meadows and Jane Kean. With guest star Eileen Heckert. And away we go!
Oh, Alice, you won't believe what I've got to tell you.
Oh, boy, you're never going to believe what I've got to tell you.
Oh, okay, you first. You're the home team.
Well, I went to the bank today.
Yeah?
To take some money out for Christmas shopping.
Uh-huh.
I got to the window and the man said to me, the account is closed.
What?
Ralph went to the bank first thing this morning and cleaned out everything, our entire life savings.
Oh, how much was it?
$248.
Well, there goes your condominium in Florida.
It's not funny, Trix.
Oh, I know, but wait till you hear my story. You know that paycheck that Ed got with the Christmas bonus and everything?
Yes?
He handed the entire thing over to Ralph for one of his crazy schemes. Oh, Alice, what are we going to do?
We'll kill him. And then we'll plead insanity for marrying them in the first place. Come in.
What's the happiest memory about the Honeymooners? Working with such people like...
Getting it. Getting the job.
Getting the job?
Yes. Well, the total ecstasy of being told that you have this wonderful role opposite Art Carney, who's always been one of my favorites.
Mine too.
You know, and not having to audition for it, go in and read for a
Didn't
network.
have to audition at all.
No, Jackie was the one that was in
Yes.
charge. He didn't ask CBS if they approved. He said, that's it.
You mean he didn't even ask to CBS?
No, it's
Isn't
so
that
different
right?
today. Now you have to go through this complete board of directors, and a lot of them
So
aren't
what
even-
happened when you went to Miami? You went to Miami.
The show was done from Miami.
First, tell me, the very first when you did it.
Well,
let's go back to it.
It was a total moving. I had a house here.
Right.
Most people do a television show from here.
Right.
I had just bought my home, and of course I had to migrate to Miami because that's where Jackie wanted to do the show.
Right.
Because he at that time was hooked on golf. And CBS was willing to put up studios right on the country club grounds.
You're kidding.
No. Right on the, and he would come to work to rehearsal in his little golf cart.
Right.
That had everything on it, you know. And we would read the script, and then he'd say, go home and learn it. And that would be basically our only rehearsal until we got on camera on Saturday, and then we'd block it.
Was he very real professional? I mean, his lines, he knew everything.
Oh, well, he had an X-ray mind.
He did?
Yes, he could just go into the room for an hour and learn that entire script.
Jane? Really?
And he hated to rehearse because he thought you got stale on it, which you do doing comedy. I believe sometimes that the first time you do it it's inspired,
fresh.
And then as you keep doing it and doing it, you do get stale. But that's the way it goes with most people.
So you had a good time on that show then?
Oh, I had a wonderful time. Yeah, he was very generous, and he knew what he wanted, but he was very, very easy on the actors.
Was he like a little boy, Jane? Would you say Jackie Gleason? Or was he...
Well, I would...
They say he used to drink a lot, which is great, you know, like John Wayne.
He drank a lot, but he
But he's a
didn't-
man, see? He was a man's drinker.
Oh, yes, he was a heavy drinker.
Or an
but
Irish
not
drinker.
before the show.
Not before the show?
Oh, only afterwards. He would, then he would like to celebrate.
Right.
But before the show, no, because your timing goes off when you drink, which Art Carney found out.
Tell me about Art Carney. I think this man's a master.
Oh, he's brilliant.
How did you meet him anyway? How did you meet Art Carney first?
Well, I think actually first was down there in Florida when I went to do the show. I saw him last year. I was doing a musical version of the movie Arthur.
Right.
At the Playhouse in Connecticut, Goodspeed Opera House, and he lived in the next little town, Connecticut, in Saybrook. So I saw him a great deal. The stage manager came to me during rehearsal and he said, Art Carney's in your dressing room. He said, would you like to see him?
Oh, would you?
Said, would I? So it was lovely to see him.
So you're very close then, with all the members, Audrey and all of them.
Very fond of him. It's one of those things that we don't see each other often.
Really?
But when we get together, yeah, it's kind of like after a show closes, people go their separate ways. It's I love you, but the show closed.
Right.
However, when you do get the opportunity to be with them, it's like you've never left.
Right. Jane, what would you consider yourself like? A comedian, actress, comedians, Because you sing. You sing. You're a very good singer.
Thank you. I would say classify myself as an actress who can sing and do comedy.
Do comedy. Because this show right now is really a comedy show.
Oh, broadly, yes,
Funny
broadly
show.
departed. Yeah, it is hysterically funny. When I read the script, I ordinarily reject a lot of scripts that do off Broadway, as
Right,
they say,
right.
or equity waiver.
Right.
But this one, Jimmy Doolittle, was
Yes,
produced.
yes,
and
I
this
saw
is
him
the
there.
first
I saw him.
equity waiver show
This
that
is
he's
his
been
first.
involved with. Yes, and you know his background.
Yes.
And this lovely Jean Van Tile, who's produced several shows at the Tiffany and around. She
Right.
has a very good reputation as a writer and producer. So they collaborated on this. And when I read the script, I just laughed out loud, as I did with Steel Magnolias.
Right,
That's
right.
the first show that I've really read and laughed at.
Tell me about Sheila Mccray. When did she come into the role of
Well, Sheila went
of
into,
Alice?
in '66 when they went into color. She joined at the same time I did.
Oh, okay.
It was the hour-long versions, and they were musical versions.
Right.
Audrey was not available at the time. She was very much involved with her husband Bob Six, who was the head of Continental Airlines.
Right.
She was on the board, and she used to like to fly with him all over the country. So she would not commit herself to a weekly show. She would do a special, but not a weekly show.
No. Why is that? She
I
didn't
just
want
told
to, She
you.
didn't want to do it, though, huh? She just didn't want
Not
to.
a weekly
You don't
show.
like to.
She
People,
wanted
some
to-
people. Go
No,
ahead.
she wants to do it now.
Now, she does.
She didn't want to do it then because her husband was alive, and they traveled together, and they
A
both
lot of actors do that with their husbands or wives. They prefer to be home with their wives or husbands.
Well, it wasn't exactly being home. If you're married to someone like Bob Six, you're constantly on the go.
On the coast. Sheila, let's show that thing of Sheila of Mccray.
Sheila was delightful,
singing.
too.
It's great.
Uh-huh.
Let's show that clip. Thanks.
In that place, what a mess it was. I bet they haven't had a decent meal since we left.
Hey, Alice.
Yeah?
Do you think the boys have suffered enough already? I mean, maybe we should take them back. I miss Ed.
What? I've got an idiot, you've got a maniac, and you miss him? Are you kidding?
Alice, I miss my maniac. Maybe we ought to take them back.
Don't do it. You'll rue it. I've always found if you have a little patience, they'll come around. Guarantee it.
Alice, we've got them dancing now. Maybe they've learned their lesson now.
Don't weaken. I'm speaking as one who knows. Just a little independence keeps them on their toes.
Perhaps if we told them that maybe we're wrong.
But silence is golden. We've got to be strong. Independent.
Alice, I know they're wrong, and yet maybe we should forget.
They're steaming, they're screaming, they'll fuss and cuss. With a little bit of patience, they'll come home to us.
What is the comparison between both
Audrey
of them?
and Sheila?
Audrey and yeah.
Well, Audrey.
Because you worked with them both.
Yes, I did. Audrey had a more caustic delivery. She could top Jackie, which he liked. The original Alice was brilliant, Kurt Kelton.
Right.
And Audrey she really took it off of Pert's delivery, because Jackie's theory was if it was a shrinking violet, then they would hate him, the way he would yell and all and scream and like a trip to the moon and all. And the very first show, Sheila didn't want to do it anything like Alice. She said, my Alice is different. My Alice cries.
Her Alice cries.
And Jackie says, not on this show. He said, because if she cries, then I'm dead.
That's right.
Because people then will be sympathetic toward you, and that's not the honeymooners.
Right.
It's that the wife can top, because he would say, well, you know, he'd yell and scream, and she'd say, oh, you big fat. She would come back at him, but you see, so it couldn't be anyone soft.
Art Carney, Wonderful.
Brilliant.
What kind of guy really is Art Carney?
Very shy and withdrawn.
It is, isn't
Yes,
he?
in a party, he's very much
In a corner.
laid back, you know, or he'll sit at the piano like Steve Allen, and he will lose himself in that. But he's not a
Steve Allen's that
social
way
person.
too, isn't he? He likes
Yes.
to lose himself.
Yes,
Yeah, I've interviewed him. He's quite that laid back too.
yes.
What has been the hardest for Jane Kean in life?
The hardest?
Yeah, what has been the hardest for you?
Well,
I mean, you've been in show business a long time, Jane.
you know, I really I've had it very good. My husband always has to remind me, you know, he'll say, you've had a wonderful career, Jane. You've did nightclubs at their height.
Right.
You've done Broadway shows, and you're still enjoying what you're doing.
Doing.
And
That's the secret, isn't it? Enjoying what you're doing and still getting paid for it.
I know it.
I mean,
I just did
lucky.
I just did one show on the most gorgeous ship on a cruise to the Orient. This luscious, this beautiful suite. We went to Bali and Singapore, and all I did was sing at one show. Now those are the perks that you get when you're in show business, and it's certainly a wonderful thing to be able to have an act. Once you have an act, you can do a one-woman show. You can go here and there. You don't have to wait for the telephone to ring. And I still do a lot of voiceovers.
You do
for commercials.
Lots of it, huh?
Yes, because of my impressions and so forth, I can turn on an English accent.
Who's some of the people that you really liked, your favorite people you impersonate? Who's some of the favorites?
Well, I do Katharine Hepburn, young and old.
Uh-huh.
And Carol Channing and...
There's one around, Dan Bear is shaking her, like Katharine Hepburn shaking and making it so bad. I think it's bad taste.
Well, that is not too good.
Am I right?
Yeah.
And Betty Davis, too. There's doing one with Betty Davis at the end of her life.
Well, that's...
Bad taste, Jane.
No, that's
show
not good
business. The
taste.
young comedians today...
Well, they have no shame.
They don't, do they?
No, of course not. There's no set of rules for them. There's no taste, good taste. They use four-letter words like we say, let's go have something to eat, you know?
Let's go back. The
How far?
Keans,
How
Betty
far?
and Jane Kean.
Yes.
A book.
A book?
Yeah. Is there going to be a book?
It certainly could be, but it
Could.
would be as long as Gone with the Wind. Because I would have to bring up my relationship with Walter Winchell to make it interesting. And, and
Tell me about Winchell and you and your sisters. You had a...
Well, Walter came into the Copacabana after Betty and I were already established.
Right.
We were packing them in, and his friend Sherman Billingsley, who had the Stork Club, said, you've got to see this act at the Copa. And as they used to do when the place was packed and someone important came along, they'd put a table right on the floor as close as you and I are right now, and you'd have to... And Walter was there that night, and as we used to do, introduce the celebrities around the room. And then we said, and we're very proud to have Walter Winchell here.
Right.
And he stood up from his chair and he says, you're wonderful, I'm going to tell the world. And the next morning he devoted half of his column to Betty and Jane Kean. And from then on he went on a campaign for us. I mean, there was something in the papers every day. And we were...
The Ed Sullivan Show, though. Come on, the first time you guys were on the Ed Sullivan Show, I heard about it in Miami, all over the Kean sisters.
We were already established.
But togetherness, it was like an overnight.
All the columnists, we were columnist pets. We really were, because when we opened at Ankles Away, the critics were not very favorable. They were not favorable to us. But every columnist in the city went on the bandwagon for us. And people on their television shows, like Bob Hope, and then Arthur Godfrey they would say, if you're in New York, go see Betty and Jane Kean's show, Ankles Away. They made it a hit.
Right.
They did it. The critics were not too happy about that. Because in that era, the columnists had power.
I see.
Yes, and today there aren't any.
They don't have it today.
No, today it's...
But it's a sleaze
it's television.
It's sleaze bags. Those talk shows.
Talk shows.
Talk shows.
That's where it's at today.
We have too many of those, I think, really. I think we have too many.
Don't say that. You've got
that's okay.
one.
I'm not that kind of a talk show. But I'm just saying I think we do have too many of that. sleazy type of things, you know?
Yeah,
what I mean?
it is.
Have you ever turned down the part that you've regretted later, Jane?
Taken apart?
No. Have you ever turned down a part that you've regretted later in life?
No. When I turn down a part, I don't turn them down very often because I feel guilty. I don't know if I'll be asked again. No, I won't say that. There's a lot in, as I said, the equity waiver shows that I have turned down, but no, I haven't turned down too much, and I haven't been offered a plum, like a wonderful role in a movie that I would turn down.
The Daisy thing, it must have been fun doing. Driving Miss Daisy.
That's such a wonderful
And the pond,
role.
that must have been great.
On
You love the
Golden
theater,
Pond.
don't you? I'm looking at you.
I love the theater.
Theater's so important.
Yes, I enjoyed so much doing the Gleason show, but today's television is so different. If you're a guest star on a show, you are the outsider.
Really?
Oh, yeah. The company, the regulars,
right.
They're cliquey. It's a clique. So you come in, and 9 times out of 10, nobody bothers to introduce you, and you're left alone. They all go off to lunch, and it just isn't. It isn't fun. It's a job, and it's exposure, and it's good money, but it's not enjoyable. The theater is wonderful. I mean, you have that feedback of the people laughing as they do in Dearly Departed, and there's nothing like that.
Looking back, great career, Jane.
Yes, it's been wonderful.
You must have had a good time. Would you say, looking back, Jane Kean had a good time?
I had a wonderful time. I had a wonderful mother, bless her heart, who got us in there. Was she a
gypsy lady like Madame Rose?
Yes, I've played gypsy so many times, and I always identify with my mother.
Really?
Yeah, when I played Mama Rose. Oh, very strong. And I lived with her till the day she died.
You're very close with your mother.
Yes, she had a great influence on us, especially me.
What do you mean, just especially, why? You were the baby,
well,
were you?
I think I listened to her more than my sister did, because my sister was married 5 times.
You only been married once?
Twice.
Twice?
Just a second offender. Betty had famous husbands. Jim Backus, Mr. Magoo.
Did she really?
He was her second husband. Frank Fay.
Great.
Harvey.
Wow.
Originator Harvey. Lou Parker.
She did make famous people, didn't she?
Lou Parker played Marlo Thomas's father on That Girl.
How about you, Jane? How did you meet your second husband?
In Florida. I owe that to Jackie too, you see, because it was.
And how long you married now?
Now I've been married 22 years to
Children?
Joe.
How many? Any?
No, I have no children. My husband has 3 sons.
You have no children?
Previous marriage, no.
Do you regret that, not having children?